I'm Susan Silvas, and we joined South End Christian Church when I was about 2 years old, which would have probably been about 1944.
We moved to Houston in 33, the latter part of 33, and my father traveled. We had one car, and and I don't know how it happened, but some people called on us from South End Christian Church, and my mother particularly was raised in the Christian church and had a grandfather that was a minister. And so, since we didn't have a car and Daddy was gone maybe 2 weeks at a time, my Opal Hill Munns, who was a secretary at that time, would come and pick up the three girls and my mother, and we would go to church when Daddy was out of town. She also did that during Bible school and any other function that we wanted to go to. That's my first memory of it.
When we moved to Houston, we lived at 1909 Blodgett, which was right off of Alameda Road. And we didn't own a family car. My husband had a company car. So I kind of looked around for a Christian church that I could either go by bus or walk. And South End Christian Church was within walking distance. It was a long walk, but you could manage it.
I guess I started there like cradle roll or whatever. We had a good time there, and my dad was very athletic, and he put in a gym there. That was interesting. And we had a pig stand nearby, so we would join our Sunday school friends from the Baptist church right there and meet at the pig stand and skip Sunday school.
One thing that I remembered very well was the basement, because that's where we all gathered as young people and had our fun. We had ping pong tables and didn't have a pool table, but we had ping pong tables, and we had our CYF meetings down there, and it was just a fun place. We could romp and stomp and do whatever we wanted to do.
And we used to have parties down there, and they did special things for birthdays, and they'd have a birthday table for each month, and you could go sit at your birthday table. So that's the way we mixed up and met people.
But the old sanctuary at South End had been a gym. And one Sunday morning, several of the boys decided that they were going to go up in the attic during church. Which, boys will do. They were teenagers at that point, and they were climbing around up there, and one of them fell through the ceiling.
We had a Santa Claus came to us, and one little boy recognized the shoes on Santa. I said, "That's not Santa, that's my dad. Those are his shoes."
I had just completed my tour in Europe and was transferred to Ellington Field there, and that's, of course, how I made a connection with Rosalie and her family. Were all members of South End Christian Church. Her mother, her grandmother, the grandfather was for quite some time very active in the South End Christian Church. And so it became automatic when we decided to get married that we would get married there in the South End Christian Church. And my wife's mother, Rosa Frazier, contacted Dr. Elmer Henson and made arrangements for the wedding. And we were married there. Let's see, it was June the 22nd, 1946.
I remember very well the three ministers. Dr. O'Hearn was there, then Carter Boren, and E.R. Williams, who played a very, very important, he and Dr. Henson were next thing to fathers to me. They were very inspirational in raising me in a Christian faith.
Elmer Henson was the pastor. I still think of him. When I think of God, I think of Elmer Henson. That is my vision of God always.
He was a very sweet man.
And he was the one that more or less had the vision of changing locations, because that area, instead of adding on and expanding where they were, he decided it was better that they move to another location.
The main thing I remember is when we were getting ready to move into the new church. I was about 4 or 5, and we painted all of the little pews for the children's department, and we painted them blue. Now, why I remember that fact, I'm not sure, but I do remember those little blue pews. I did not paint at 5 years old, but I remember being there in the midst of all of that, and Dr. Henson in his overalls.
When we were making plans to build this church, the young people whom I was president of at that point wanted to raise some money and do something to show their impact on having a new church. So they designed and they thought about having a junior church. And we had cakewalks, we had spaghetti suppers, and we had a fun house at Halloween. And this old church was so scary anyway. We had a basement that was back in the back and dark, and where we played games and everything. And we raised enough money to pay for the window in the youth chapel. And as I recollect, there was money, a little money left, and we put it toward a pulpit type thing for the put up on the step. And it was a very important part of my life. I turned the third spade of ground of this church, and my mother was responsible for decorating the parlor when it was built. Daryl and I were married here. My sisters were married here. All but one of my children have been married here. And it's a special place.
And Hal and I were the first ones married in the new church. And that was October. And that made it fun for us to be in the new church. And it wasn't finished yet, but just like everything tells you in the building business that it's supposed to be ready by a certain date, and it wasn't. But on our wedding day, Hal got up on the altar and replaced the carpet from the old church and put it on the new church at Bethany. And then he hung the old draperies in the empty window where the stained glass window had not come in yet. They poured the sidewalk on our wedding day.
But once we started, of course, we've been a member there for 60-some years.
It was fun. It was fun. I loved every minute of everything I did. Still do.